This is the You Ask, the Pros Answer podcast. Do you have questions about an upcoming exterior contracting project? We've got answers. Welcome to the You Ask, the Pros Answer podcast. Hey, welcome to the You Ask, the Pros Answer podcast. Your questions answered by the pros you trust. My name is Cole, and today I am joined with one of the best in the biz. You know him. You love him. His name is Aaron Rogers. Aaron, how are you today?
I'm great, Cole. Such a great day today. Such a great day yesterday. Excited to chat.
So, audience, this is a pretty big get for the show because Aaron is fresh off being a featured guest on the Roofing Success podcast. So I wasn't sure if we could afford him for this episode, but I'm thankful that he's here. If you would like to check out Aaron on the Roofing Success podcast, it's more of an insider, industry insider kind of a thing. So if you are a homeowner, you might be able to glean something from it. But if you are one of the audience members who works in the industry, go check him out on that. The link to his episode will be in the show notes. How was that, Aaron? How was that experience?
Humbling. Yeah, so I've watched Jim for years on his podcast. Yeah, it used to be one of the ones I listened to when I was still kind of out in the field more, riding around in my truck a lot. I listened to his podcast consistently. Such a huge wealth of knowledge, such a great kind of part of our industry.
Yeah.
So it was rather humbling to even be asked to be on that podcast and then to see the final product. Nobody really likes to listen to themselves speak or kind of see themselves on camera. So that was interesting. But I've gotten quite a few text messages and emails in regards to the podcast, and it's been humbling to say the least. So,
well, welcome home. This is your podcast home, and don't you forget it. You might say that the Roofing Success podcast would be in the Hall of Fame of roofing podcasts, right? Maybe?
I would.
Yeah. So, speaking of Hall of Fame, see, this is going to be the best transition ever. Although typically you don't call out transitions and then actually be good. You would, if you were a real pro, you would just go right into it. Anyway, speaking of Hall of Fames, we're about a month away from, I'm a big baseball fan. I'm sporting my Delmarva Shorebirds hat today. I'm missing my Maryland and Delmarva home. Anyway, the MLB Hall of Fame induction ceremony is about a month away. I would say after 20 plus years in the business, you would get my vote for the Hall of Fame if there was one for exterior contractors. But what I'm getting at is I can only assume that after this many years, this many projects, there have got to be some Hall of Fame projects as you look back over the countless, although we probably could count them, but the number of projects that we've done. So I'm wondering if you could share with our audience today one of those projects that sticks out. I know each one is unique. You'd say each one's special, just like you say each one of your boys are special. But share with us one of those projects that sticks out in your memory. It could be one that's recent. It could be one that's 20 years ago. What comes to mind?
Yeah, there'd be a couple of different projects that would come to mind. Some of them would just be really, really interesting projects, and some of them would be more, I would say, projects where I would say I'm more proud of, but proud to be a part of, proud to be able to help. If I'm going with, if I go with unique projects, okay. So the one I would say is probably one of my favorite projects, definitely one of the most stressful projects, one of the most unique by far. We did a project in downtown Lewes and Shipcarpenter Square that was essentially replacing a lighthouse replica. Now, this was, not an actual lighthouse. It was part of a residential home, and it wasn't replacing the thing from the ground up. It kind of has a really unique backstory. So Shipcarpenter Square by itself is a really unique little kind of subdevelopment in downtown Lewes. There's only, I think, about 20 homes, 24 homes, something like that. They have a really nice kind of U-shaped development. Nice little courtyard kind of in the center of all the homes. So super, super unique. But this particular home was one of the originals, and part of the home was a two-scale, full-size replica of the Mispillion Lighthouse. That obviously is north of us. I can't remember how old the original lighthouse was. Dated back into, I would say, probably somewhere in like the mid 1800s was the original lighthouse. Somewhere in the early to mid 1900s, the lighthouse actually burned up in a fire. But this lighthouse was the kind of the original two-scale, full-size replica of the original lighthouse. So a whole bunch of newspaper articles kind of showcasing this design. When it was rebuilt, it wasn't really rebuilt kind of the way it should have been done in our environment. As most of our kind of our normal listeners would know, we're right here on the coast in southern Delaware. So this home is, I would say, a quarter of a mile at best from the bay, less than half a mile, three-quarters of a mile from the actual ocean. So it's a really, really harsh salt environment. Exterior salt environments and metals like steel don't really mesh really well. So over the years, we originally got the call. The lighthouse kind of deteriorated. There was some deferred maintenance that probably should have been done. But being that it's such a unique structure, it's not something you can just call a handyman and be like, "Hey, come do some maintenance over on this lighthouse." So we originally got the call. We looked at it. It was leaking. There's a kind of a big wood tower structure beneath the lighthouse that you go up kind of a winding staircase, and then finally like a little captain's ladder to get into the lighthouse structure. So we did our initial inspection. The thing was rusted way, way, way beyond repair. And the homeowner requested, we'd like to rebuild it. It's kind of a very unique piece. We really love it. They had a lot of memories with their children up there. They talked about things like, for July 4th, they're able to actually watch the fireworks from the lighthouse, which is super awesome. So it was one of those projects where it's like, man, are we the right people for this? But I was like, I want to be involved regardless. So we reached out to a local fabrication company. We had them pop in and take a peek at the original structure, figure out if this was a project they could take on, and we agreed to kind of change some of the design aspects as far as, most specifically the type of metal, going from steel to stainless steel, going to powder coated, so no issues with paint and whatnot. So it took many months. We finally kind of got down to the final design. We got the pricing all put together and submitted it. Homeowner agreed to everything. So the original structure, obviously, it's large. I want to say it's probably about 9-ish feet wide. It's kind of an octagon shape, not even remotely a light structure as far as weight goes. So in order to do it properly, we closed a small section of the street down. We brought a crane in, actually unbolted and lifted the original structure off of the top of the tower, placed it onto the back of a trailer, and hauled it to the fabrication location so that they could use that structure to kind of base their final dimensions, their final, to look at it ultimately and figure out where the deficiencies were. So that was a really cool process by itself. At that point, we were able to kind of look at how the original structure was, how the original tower structure was built, kind of the layers of interior trim, the kind of all the ins and outs of everything. as well as the actual original structure. Once we popped it off and were able to kind of look underneath of it and kind of get, look under its dress, so to speak, we saw all the areas that it was leaking from. We saw all the areas that was like, man, that was just a very poor design choice. So went from there, kind of talked with the homeowner to kind of come up with the final plan. Came up with a final plan several months later. The new structure was built. It got built in kind of two sections, and then brought another trailer in. We repaired a whole bunch of rot, repaired a whole bunch of the interior stuff on the tower, brought the new lighthouse in place. Again, another crane, put the crane up, pulled the crane up, or the lighthouse up onto the top of the structure, secured it to the top of the structure, and then kind of put all the final little pieces together, put the glass in, put the lightning rod system back in place. We tried to be as close as we possibly could to the original structure. There was, we did kind of change one little small, two little small details that probably most people wouldn't really notice. A very, very small little gutter system on the top. The actual top of the lighthouse portion, we kind of extended out just a little bit to kind of have an overhang like a house would have, simply so that the water didn't kind of come off the top and just go right down the windows. In the end, it turned out absolutely beautiful. It was not an easy project. A lot of headaches in the beginning, a lot of headaches during the project. This project happened during COVID, which anybody who did any sort of home improvement, whether you're in the industry or not in the industry, nobody was blind to the fact that, things were not readily available like they were. Everything took longer to get. Everything became, a lot more expensive. The entire project took, I think, longer than anybody really expected it to, simply because we weren't 100% prepared with all of the obstacles we would kind of run into in the process of doing such a unique project. So we got to put it all back together. In the end, those of us who know it was replaced can tell the difference. But for somebody who, say, left on January 1st and came back on December 31st, it looks like nothing ever happened. So that's probably the most unique project I think the company's ever been associated with, and very, very, very proud of that one.
I have so many questions.
I can't imagine why.
When you got the phone call, what were your initial thoughts? Did you think it was legit? How was it
posed? Oh man, how was the original call? So I want to say the original call was something along the lines of, we've got a customer that needs some repairs done to a lighthouse in Lewes, and there's a couple of different options there, but so it's normally when we have projects like that come up, it's usually the more unique projects, the ones that are not typically within our kind of normal day-to-day operations. Those leads are typically shuffled to me. Like, hey, Aaron, you've got the most experience. You've done, at this point after doing the lighthouse, I feel like I've done almost anything that I can do in this industry. It was one of those things where at a minimum, I'm going to go meet with this client and see if it's something that I can help with. I more so just wanted to see what privately owned lighthouse in Lewes that I was not aware of.
Yeah.
Did somebody need help with? So I never in a million years realized that it was there. I've probably driven on this street directly next to the home hundreds, if not thousands of times over the last 20 years. Never once did I look up and see a lighthouse on the top of this house.
All right. So you mentioned a myriad of issues, challenges. What would you say I've seen some of the footage, and our audience has been seeing some of the pictures and videos
Yeah.
throughout this. In fact, if you were listening to this, I would encourage you to check it out on Spotify or YouTube where you can watch it. What was the biggest challenge throughout the project?
So the biggest challenge was, I would say, the design of the actual lighthouse. You know, you're taking a structure that has like a lot of history, has a lot of symbolism behind it, and you're trying to do it in a way that this isn't going to be a something they have to go through again in the next, say, 20 years. I believe the house was originally built in 2004, if I'm not mistaken. So you're talking something that should have lasted 50 plus years with a little recurring maintenance, and they got just shy of 20 out of it. It had been leaking for a number of years, so it had been failing for quite some time. So our goal was to go in there and figure out how we could rebuild this thing. And do it in a way that like this wasn't going to be something they had to fix. Without everything requires maintenance.
Sure.
So as long as we're doing the annual maintenance, the semi-annual maintenance, we just needed to build a structure that the structure itself was not going to be the cause of the issue.
Yeah.
So going from something that rust and corrodes, and if you've ever seen steel corrode really, really badly, as it rusts, it kind of expands and flakes open.
Yep.
So we just needed to build a structure that wasn't going to do that ever again, and I think that ultimately we achieved that. So,
in the end, let me just ask this: how did the customers feel about the end result?
So the end result, honestly, was absolutely beautiful. The homeowners were ecstatic, happily wrote the final check. They are, to this day, very awesome customers of ours. Super, super nice people. It's one of those things where when you've never done a project, there's always the question is like, how the heck do I price this? So from a contractor's point of view, you want to price it fairly. You want to price it safely in the aspect of like, too. I want to go into this project where, I'm not going to be worried about 6 months into this, like there's no money left. I haven't made any profit. When I originally went to them, the price tag was not a small price tag by any means. I wasn't necessarily, I wanted to be involved with the project. Mm-hmm. When I submitted the price, normally, there's some things when you submit pricing, people are just completely unrealistic and have no idea what things cost. When I submitted the pricing, I expected slightly more of a reaction, but it was like, okay. And timeline wise, when do you think we could get this done? And it's kind of like, oh, okay, cool. We're just going to move on past that conversation. We're good to go. So they're happy, still happy to this day. We've had a few little kind of bumps on the road, some quirks we've had to kind of contend with. You are taking a brand new structure, sitting on top of an existing structure, and trying to navigate exactly how to secure it to the new structure. And then also you have to take the new structure and figure out like how is it going to react to the environment that it's in. So there's been a couple of tweaks we've made I think it's been 2 years or so since we did the original structure. There's been some tweaks we've had to make to kind of keep everything, as expected. But, it's one of the things when we take a project on and we say, hey, there's a limited lifetime workmanship warranty, we're serious about that. So we go back. If there's ever a concern whatsoever, we'll go back, we'll take care of it. Some of it's going to be like, hey, there's this issue and we're just going to jump in there and take care of it. And some of it's going to be, in this particular project, we go back annually and inspect everything just to make sure everything's reacting, as it should. And some things is like us kind of getting ahead of it, be like, hey, I don't like the way that looks. We're going to kind of pull that apart and take care of it. So, so overall, amazing project. Love the way it turned out. It was a very, very stressful, very, very stressful time. So,
I bet. Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Well, as I was preparing for this episode, I was not expecting this answer. I was thinking it was going to be some roof or siding or deck project that was kind of cool. So this was unexpected. This is our time, though, in the episode where we get a chance to plug our services. So, Aaron, if an audience member is watching or listening and they have a lighthouse that they need refurbished, where should they go online?
Just call. That's one of the ones you're going to want to just call the office.
All right. Well, what's the number? What is the number?
It's the number's 302-664-1700.
Yeah, call now. Operators are standing by. Hey, if you like this conversation, these tales from the project archives, let us know. I spend time, our marketing team, we're going back through our archives and we're looking at photos that we can try to use in marketing materials. And I often come across projects that predate my time with Pro Exteriors, and I would love to hear more stories like this one. So if you're listening and you enjoyed this, please let us know. Aaron, thanks for sharing with us today. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you, Cole.
All right. Hey, that is all we have for you today on the You Ask the Pros Answer podcast. Thank you to everybody who has gotten the word out about the show. Please continue to rate us on Apple Podcast. Follow us on social media on Facebook and Instagram, or just tell friends of yours, hey, I listened to this show and I think you would like it too. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, please be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Before we go, we want to hear from you. Send us your emails to info@askproexteriors.com. Send all your questions that you have related to exterior home remodeling. Again, let us know if you like this story time with Aaron. I believe that is it. If you are facing an upcoming exterior home project, we hope this episode has helped you. If you have a lighthouse, to tackle it with confidence. Remember, knowledge is power, and a little bit of research can go a long way. Until next time, happy homeowning. The You Ask the Pros Answer podcast is produced in-house by the Pro Exteriors team. Pro Exteriors is the exterior contracting division of Empire Construction Group, LLC. This podcast is intended for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal advice. For more answers to your questions, please subscribe to this channel and podcast so you'll never miss an episode. Do you have an upcoming home remodeling project? Find more answers to your questions at askproexteriors.com. Hey, thanks for watching this video. Would you please help us out by hitting that subscribe button? That would be awesome. Also, if you never want to miss another one of our uploads, please be sure to hit that notification bell. All right, thanks. See ya.
Smash like, subscribe.